Hey everybody, welcome to another video. And in this video, I want to talk about something that is often overlooked, and that is why not making a choice is actually making a choice. So I want to talk about the consequences of not making a choice, and I'm going to personally tie it back to my own experience. I'm also going to talk about in this video why sometimes not making a choice is the right choice, and letting it up to fate actually is the right move. However, I do personally believe that more often than not, making an active choice is usually better than the passive choice of not making a choice. When we choose not to make a choice, a lot of times what ends up happening is we end up leaving it up to factors outside of ourselves. I'm a big believer that in order for us to do what we want to do in life, we do have to make active decisions, right? And so when I think back to moments in my life where I made active decisions and took charge of my life, I think about a lot of positive outcomes that happen. And not every outcome that you're going to get from an active decision is always going to be a good one. Sometimes you're going to make a decision with the best information that you have available to you at the time, and you're going to find out later that maybe that wasn't the best decision. But I still think that that failure, or at least the recognition of that quote-unquote failure, is the lesson. That was the point. And by you making an active decision, even if it was the wrong decision, it still was the right one for your long-term path, if you are able to look at it from that perspective. When I think about a time where I made an active decision that really tangibly changed my life, one of them was moving to Chicago. I knew that I was no longer happy. I was working in my job. At the time, I was working on the phones at Apple, and I was in customer service. I was getting yelled at all the time. It was a very draining job. I mean, just imagine taking somebody's negative energy all day, the worst moment in their life that's ever happened, their phone, with all of their data that they were too careless to back up their information on iCloud or on their computer, is now gone, and now you have to try to calm this person down. I mean, you're basically somebody's therapist for an hour. And I also knew that I wasn't growing in the spot that I was. I wasn't growing. At the time, I was living with my parents. I had just graduated college. I had a lot of freedom when I went to college. And all of a sudden, I came back, and my parents are chill. Like, they let me do whatever I wanted, but it's different when you're living in the house with your parents, especially as an adult, and when you were so used to your own routines and your own space and everything. And you kind of go back to those old patterns of behavior, and it's not always a good thing, For me, when I found an opportunity to be able to leave, go to Chicago, I knew I had to take it. And I didn't even know what I was going to do. I couldn't find a job. I originally was trying to transfer to one of the Apple stores. Got a phone interview, but then they didn't really give me a real chance beyond that because I couldn't go there just for the interview. I actually just quit the job altogether. I went on pure blind faith. I quit the job. I signed up for classes at Second City, and I just hoped for the best. And that was an active decision. That was one that I took that had a lot of risks. I had a lot of unknowns. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But I had this faith in myself that it would work out. And luckily for me, and I know that this is just pure privilege here, my uncle offered me to stay with him for a few months and to get my bearings in the city, learn the city, make friends, and then eventually go get my own place. And could I have gone there and just moved in right away and just found an apartment? Like, totally. Yeah, I could have. I actually saved up quite a bit of money living at home. And so that was an option. But the fact that my uncle gave me that opportunity, I know how lucky and blessed I am. And I'm like insanely grateful for him eternally for that, because that was a pivotal moment in my life that allowed me to really take it to the next level. And I signed up for those Second City classes. I met a ton of friends through that. A lot of awesome improv people. I miss them, actually. So if any of you guys are watching, man, I miss you guys. It was a crucial moment in my life that I had to make an active decision to move. And at the time, I was 22, almost 23. I was ready to take on the real world. I was writing scripts at the time and just super energized to do it. And when I came here, I mean, my life did change for the better, and I started to really get into what I wanted to do. And later that year is when I started the podcast, The Cosmic Perspective, which, shout out, I'll put a link. And if I had not started that podcast, you wouldn't see me here today making these videos on this channel. To put it all into perspective, active decisions can completely transform your life. I think the point of my Chicago journey and like why I needed to come here when I did is a really good microcosm of not having all the answers, not knowing what I needed to do, but just knowing that it was the right thing to do. And with all the information that I had at the time, I had every reason to believe that it at least offered a future and it gave me something new and unexpected, when staying at my parents' place was a known quantity. It was something that I knew what my life would be and how it would continue if I stayed there. I think if I didn't take that action and I would have just taken what I already had and just accepted it and then just kept the status quo, who knows where my life would be, because my life has changed so dramatically from that one decision of just coming to Chicago. Since then, there's so many other things that have spiraled off of that. I mean, I met my girlfriend here. I met so many awesome friends here and collaborators. I started my podcast here. I've now started my YouTube channel here. These are all things that could I have done in Florida? Maybe. But was I on the trajectory or on the path to be able to do it? Not really. Sometimes I feel like not making a decision can be the right decision. So I do want to be a little nuanced here. There are times where doing nothing is actually exactly what you should do. Sometimes you need a little more time, sometimes you need a little more context, and sometimes you should just need to be patient and see how things play out. But I would say that that is more of the exception than the rule, and I lean more on the side of being proactive and making decisions in your life, because there's already so much that the universe or God can throw at you, and it's already going to be really unpredictable. And so you might as well do the things that, even if you don't know the outcome, you have some control over the next steps in the process. And when you have that control over the next steps, it's like, yeah, I mean, it can go either way from there, but you're at least guiding it in a particular direction. And I find that to be a way more useful strategy for me personally. So I can only speak from my personal experience. I can't tell you what's the right thing to do for you or whatever your situation is, but just learning from myself and over the years of just making various decisions that have truly been, obviously only in retrospect and a lot more context, have truly been pivotal moments in my life that really have changed my life trajectory completely. So, you know, my recommendation for you is to look at various things in your life, figure out where are these spots that I'm feeling a little unfulfilled, or that I'm not feeling like I'm living up to my expectations, or things that I'm not doing enough. And it can really be as simple as like, I'm not spending enough time with my kids, or I'm not doing enough hobbies, or, you know, whatever the thing is that you feel like you're lacking in your life. And try to switch from that scarcity mindset of like, I don't have enough time to do this, and start to think about ways you can make time. Start to think about ways that you can actively change the things. Because I've found for me, you know, a lot of times I really just have to make time for stuff. And what I've learned through that is that, like, look what I'm doing right now with this channel. You know, before, 6 months ago, I was not making any videos at all. And now I'm making 2 a week. And it's not because I'm phoning it in on the videos either. I'm putting in time. I'm putting in hours into this stuff. I'm basically working a second job by doing this. And it's been so fun and so fulfilling for me. So when I think about the equation of like, you know, in the past I would have been like, oh, I don't have enough time, or oh, blah, 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 blah. But actually I do. It's just a matter of how do I want to allocate that time. And I feel like now I'm realizing how much power I actually have and how much capability and energy I have beyond the motivation. I've now created systems that are working for me and are allowing me to continue this path, which otherwise probably would have been pretty difficult for me to do 6 months ago. I don't think I was in the mental state to do it. And so finding those little things that you can do that actually build towards this larger change you want to make, you got to start there first before you're going to be able to build in the new habits and routines.
So next time you find yourself thinking, what should I do? Like, what step should I take? I actually wouldn't think too much about the actual step. So when you spend too much time overthinking something and not just doing it and figuring it out, I find that you end up missing out on a lot more opportunities. And what's funny is that you would think just making a decision and sticking with it could have some potential consequences. And it definitely can. Don't get me wrong. You could definitely rush into a decision that you're not thinking all the way through,
and that can cause problems. But I think you know when those are, right? You know, usually in your heart, I know I do, like when I'm rushing into something versus when I'm just making a decision and realizing like I just need to roll with it. And I think getting better at figuring out your intuition of like what is that inner compass where you're able to kind of know like, okay, this just feels right and I'm going to just go with it and not worry about the larger details and I'll figure it out as I go, versus like I'm trying to force something that doesn't fit, you know, the square peg and the round hole kind of thing. So yeah, I think those are all good things to consider. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, make sure you check out my previous video, which is on why I'm using a planner in 2023 to help set my goals for myself. And definitely comment below if you've ever had a moment where you felt like you made an active decision to change your life and what the consequences of that were, good or bad. Be sure to put those in the comments below. I really want to hear them. Definitely subscribe. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. Peace.